how to flirt. Very few things are quite as central and important to dating and attraction, and very few things are quite as misunderstood. I see flirting misapplied, done badly, not done at all, so often, and I get so many questions that basically come down to, I don't know how to flirt. So I did a little talk for Chicago Immersion on exactly how to flirt, both in terms of attitude, delivery, technique, kind of the whole thing top to bottom. So I'm gonna give you some examples, and then I'm gonna show you that talk. So let's check it out right now. Well, if I ever need someone fired, I'll call you and you'll be my ringer.
Yeah, like I don't even have to be, working for anything. My whole job is just to say you're fired. And that's what I come in, leave the next day just to say that.
So like Donald Trump, Simon Cowell, and you.
Me. Damn! I'm not even finished with this.
Are you trying to get me drunk and take advantage of me?
Yeah.
Well, so I want you to know that drunk or not drunk, I do find you attractive, but like I don't want to wake up like, missing a kidney or something, so.
Oh, do I look like that kind of person?
Oh my God, you have no idea.
I think I would be a little bit more sleeker if I was.
You'd be how slick?
Slicker.
Slicker? You're so slick, are you kidding?
I would be more like, I don't know.
You do this?
Yeah, I would be
Because
like
that would be the number one thing that would make me not trust you.
What?
You look very ridiculous and adorable.
I'm glad I'm adorable. So are we going or what's the deal?
Sure, let's go. Actually, I was gonna call a Lyft, but fuck it, let's just take a taxi.
Okay.
Better. I'm not a big fan of waiting, so yes.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah.
Which one?
This one, I think. Flirting is possibly the most important skill in all of my game. And the funny thing is that it doesn't really get taught. Like, when was the last time you saw somebody, like, there's all these game videos, like how to self-amuse, how to, do this weird escalation in this bizarre situation, right? But how often do you actually see, like, flirting taught? It's not taught that much, which is crazy, because it is actually kind of the core of game. So I want to get into kind of what is flirting, what's it about, what isn't flirting, because a lot of guys have the wrong attitude about it. A lot of guys think that flirting is about, like, if I said a particular line, I'm flirting. It's not really true, okay? Flirting, more than a line, is an attitude. Flirting is a decision you made, right? You made a decision to make a flirtatious interaction with a girl. You made a decision to toy with the girl instead of being serious and logical. You made a decision when you get asked, what do you do for a living? To not answer it directly and boringly, but to decide, I choose to have a more fun interaction rather than a literal logical one. Does that make sense? So it's a decision you make from the outset. It's a decision you make about all your future decisions. Right? And it is an attitude and is a vibe. So for example, a lot of people would think that if I were to say the phrase like, there's a typical game line, you're the good girl and you're the bad girl, right? That's a flirty line, right? Yeah. But if I look at him like, you are a bad girl, that's not flirting, right? And I've actually had, the reason I say that is I've had a student deliver that line that way and the girls just got freaked the fuck out because it's just weird, right? On the other hand, you can say something that's not even remotely, doesn't even make sense, but it just has a flirty tonality, and it would kind of work, right? Hey, where are you from?
Pennsylvania.
Wow, you're a bit of like a ground floor penguin, aren't you? I can tell. It's fucking weird.
I've heard that before.
I've heard that before. If you've heard that before, I don't know what you're smoking, but congratulations. The point is, that made no fucking sense whatsoever, right? But the tonality, like the tonality, the delivery, the fact that I'm just saying some illogical bullshit, that's what makes it flirtation in a way, right? So it's not even about the line so much, it's about my decision to tease, my decision that I'm not going to be super logical, right? And that really is the first and primary thing. And the nice thing about it is if you decide that you're going to have a flirtatious interaction, it only takes one party to decide that, right? If I decide to flirt with you, you can decide not to flirt back, but you can't decide not to be flirted with. All right. Yeah. An exercise I do sometimes is I'll actually like have someone try and keep it platonic, and I try and flirt with them. It doesn't last very long. All right. It's very, very hard to stop a flirt in progress. So for any of you that are like, the conversation was too boring and too logical, or she was just too logical, that's your own fault. It's your fault. Okay. It's her fault if you flirt and she doesn't like it and she leaves. That's fine. That's on her. But if you just don't make that decision to flirt, if you don't decide to make it playful, that's on you, okay? Now, so that's the first thing, is flirting is an attitude. It's about not taking things seriously. It's about deciding you are going to play, right? Deciding that you're going to have that kind of interaction. Now, beyond that, there are a lot of specific formats that will help you, but any of the formats without the right attitude, tonality, delivery, idea behind it won't work, right? In terms of types of flirts, the very core of flirtation basically is the push-pull, right? Push-pull is flirting. So, you know what, I love you. Actually, no, I'm kidding. I was just fucking with you, right? You're giving me like this very, very strange look, but it's fucking attentive, so I appreciate that. Thank you, right? These little push-pulls. And anybody who's good at game, like really good at game, should be able to make a push-pull pretty much on command, right? In fact, they should be able to just push-pull someone back and forth, like till doomsday. Be like, hey man, that's a really cool jacket. Where's the motorcycle? No, I'm just fucking with you. I know you don't have a motorcycle because, like, I mean, look at you. I just mean that by that I mean like you're smart, right? Because smart people don't ride motorcycles or get laid or have any fun or, you know. And I like the fact that you're like just giving me that smile as I make fun of you. You know, they say take it like a man, but don't take it in the ass, all right? You know what I mean? All right, so you can just go back and forth and go back and forth and go back and forth, right? And you should be able to literally push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. It should be so instinctive, right? And once you have that skill, you have the ability at any moment, say you're talking to the girl and you're having whatever, you know, get to know you conversation or good conversation, lame conversation, whatever it is, she starts to get a little too high and mighty, you can give her that negative spike. And it's just second nature, no big deal. Or, you know, you're talking and it's just getting a little boring, the man to woman's kind of faded, and you did just inject a little spice, you can come up with that little compliment to make her feel just that much better really, really quickly, okay? So you want to have that skill set. And a little exercise you guys can do for that skill set, by the way, is, I call it push-pull on command. But what you basically can do is you literally just look at someone and say whatever comes to your mind, okay? And the key idea is to not think ahead, right? So you just look at the person and say, they're like, lucky for cuck, right? Fucking just like, the first thing I'm like, that's the most arrogant fucking weirdo shirt I've ever seen. But you know what? You're rocking it, so good for you. Right, so what I did, I just said the first thing that came to my mind. If it's positive, follow it with a negative. If it's negative, follow it with a positive. If it's neutral, you can go either way with it. But the key thing is not to think ahead. Because the reason that guys have trouble flirting is they try and come up with the whole flirt. They try and come up with this whole, like, this is the clever line that I'm going to drop in right now. And the problem with that in actual game is basically by the time you've delivered it, it's already too late. By the time you're like, she said this thing, okay, here's my clever response that I'm going to think out. By the time you've come up with that, and by the time you're ready to deliver it, it's 3 sentences later, and you're like, go back 3 sentences so I can deliver my little witty line to you. And it looks like the most weird, random, try-hard thing ever, right? And flirtation only really works when it's not try-hard. It only really works when it's a bit subtle, okay? In fact, this is a bit on delivery, but if you deliver like a push-pull line, like you clearly intend for it to work, it will not work. So if I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't think you and I are going to get along.
Okay.
Right? So like when I'm like, did it work? Yeah, leave it hanging. Right? When I clearly care about the reaction, when I clearly want an outcome from it, then the fact that I want an outcome makes it lose all its power. Right? The actual way to deliver a line like that is to not even deliver it. It's so that it's like it's slipped in so subtly that nobody even notices it was delivered. All right, so it's more like, you know, the funny thing is I'm actually from Colorado, and actually, you know, you and I are not gonna get along. But the funny thing though is they smoke a lot of weed there now, right? Because it's legal. But when I was there, it was so innocent. Stop looking at me like that. But I grew up. I was 18 years old. I'm like, it's too fucking innocent. I have to leave. But now Colorado is known as the crazy place, right? So you see how like I just threw in those things there, but it was so offhanded and so not a big deal that it's almost like I didn't try, right? It's almost like an accident. And the fact of being accidental makes it stronger. Because if it's like, I'm insulting you to get a reaction, your first instinct is like, well, fuck you, I'm not going to give you a reaction. If it's instead, it's like, hey, I'm talking, I just said this thing to you, now I'm past it, your first reaction is like, no, go back. What? Wait, what was that? Excuse me? And if anything, it almost like triggers your sense of injustice, right? Because if you say something and you deserve to be teased, then you're like, you know, you kind of like, you're in the mood for the banter and you kind of get it. But when someone just picks on you out of nowhere, Like, what the fuck? Why me? What is that? Right? And it actually makes it kind of stronger in a way. Okay? But the key thing is subtlety. The key thing is subtlety. If it looks at all like you want to get a reaction, or if it looks like you're serious about it or you're try hard in it, it's not going to work. It has to be playful. Absolutely has to be playful. Also along those lines, it cannot be insulting. So you have a weird face is not a good tease, for example. Right? Especially, actually, you have a weird face isn't completely awful. You have an ugly face is completely awful. Right? You have a weird face is kind of borderline. You maybe could get away with that. Right? There's something very odd about your face. Right? The fact that everybody laughs, it tells you there's at least something there. Right? If I'm like, bro, you're fucking ugly. He laughs. We have one cruel, sadistic person in the room. Right? But for the most part, that's not actually funny. It's just mean. Right? And that's not going to do quite so much. Right? And the funny thing is, this is flirting with girls. This also works in flirting with guys, i.e. just bantering and teasing and being like a normal guy who like teases and jokes around, right? It works with your friends. How many of you guys, when you're with your friends, actually do tease and give each other a hard time, right? And when you're doing that, I bet you're like smooth and fluid and it comes naturally, and I bet you're fucking funny, right? But then when you do it with girls, you're like, oh God, I hope it works. I really want this hot girl to sleep with me because of this tease. Let me put as much pressure on it as possible. And then that's when you can't do it, and that's when it doesn't flow, right? But even with guys, even like amogging, right? It's really the same thing. Like when a guy comes into your set, first of all, the thing you want to do is just ignore him, right? You want to just ignore him and have the attention instead of him. But if he does come in and he isn't in position, if you were to attack him directly, if you were to like insult him, it just looks butthurt, right? Guy comes in and you're like, this fucking weirdo, he should get lost. Now you look like you have a stick up your ass, right? You look really, really try hard. If instead you're like, dude, this guy's awesome. That was like the best pickup line. Actually, you know what? Just like, I'm going to take notes. Just go. Again, you have like 30 seconds. Go. Anything you want to say, right? But it's kind of more bantery, more playful. And if anything, you've said positive things. You gave him, technically, you gave him a compliment, right? You see what I'm saying? Technically, you said, oh, this guy's good at game. Let me sit back and watch. What you've done is you put him in a bad frame, but you've done it very, very playfully, right? Whereas if it was like all arrogant and antagonistic, like, man, this guy's got good game. Yeah, game, bro, game. Like if you're all angry about it, it's not going to work, right? So it's all about your delivery and the fact that it's playful and seems aloof, right? And that word, that's a very hard word to define, aloof, right? Like we kind of know what it means, but it's this like kind of I take it, I can leave it, whatever, not try hard, airy-fairy, whatever. Very, 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 very powerful. There's something very high value about being aloof, right? And it's in subtle things. So somebody just like refer to me by name, just like call my name. I'll show you, 1 second. I'll show you aloof. Actually, that was aloof. Actually, I'm like 1 second, right? That was actually unintentionally aloof. I'll show you not aloof first and then aloof. So somebody call my name?
Todd.
What's that? All right, that's like not aloof. That's like very reactive, right? Instead.
Todd.
Oh, what?
No, just trying it out.
No? All right. Funny enough, like we're just doing an exercise, but it like starts like, well, I don't know, what do I do next? So qualifying, right? So that lack of needing an outcome and the fact that it's playful, the fact that you're willing to fuck around is really, really useful. The other thing to know when you're flirting is that it's always okay. I don't say always. It's much more often okay than you think to say just kidding, right? Or to like back down and like soften it. Right? So don't be afraid to really just say whatever the fuck you think and then apologize if you have to, or say it and then like just kidding. Right? So those are a couple of things. So we talked a little bit about push-pull, right? That was the first type of flirtation. I said pretty much everything is push-pull. I love you, I hate you, I think I get along with you, but I'm not so much. And that's verbal push-pull, which is what people think of when they think of push-pull. But verbal push-pull is only the tip of the iceberg. Okay? In fact, if anything, it's like maybe the least effective form of push-pull. The better forms of push-pull are the more subtle forms. And this is actually a trend in all of game. Okay? The more subtle it is, one, the less weird it is, the less creepy it is, but also the more effective it is. Right? So subtlety is what you're going for. So there's a classic phrase they say, don't say what you can nod, don't nod what you can wink, don't wink what you can smile. Right? Because the less you put into it, the better it comes out. So instead of verbal push-pull, You can do like push-pull with your facial expressions if you really want to. Like for example, hey, what do you do for a living?
I'm a designer.
Okay. Right? We just like give them that look and like make them think it. Or sometimes, depending on what it is, sometimes you can just like look at them stony face and be like, and they just start qualifying themselves, right? So for example, if you said I'm a designer and I just gave you that look, right? Or a little less subtle than just a facial expression is maybe repeat it back to them. So like you do what?
I'm a designer.
You're a designer. A designer. All right. How's that working out for you?
Depends on the day, but today was pretty good.
Okay. All right. So you see how like just by like repeating it back, you can put pressure on them. Okay. And a lot of times, like I had to do it kind of 3 times there, but a lot of times just like you're a designer. They'll be like, well, I mean, like I do this and this and this other thing, and I draw pictures and something, right? So again, less is more. Less is more if you can do it with less, right? Or another fun one is say I'm very intensely engaged with you. Cool. So where are you from?
Westmoreland, Mexico.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you. It's cool though. Mexico. Cool, man. Yeah. Hasta luego. Right? No, I'm just kidding. I fucking love Mexico. You believe me? That's cool. Right. So you could always keep playing with this. I actually do like Mexico, in honesty. No, really. John's from Mexico. It's the worst thing about him. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. All right, but you can just keep playing and keep toying, and every single time, it's amazing how much you can do this. There's actually a great comedians are a great place to learn things from flirtation. There's a great scene. Eddie Izzard, he had this stand-up comedy show. It was Dressed to Kill, and he did this thing where he basically like told a lie to the audience. He said like this one actor was like told this thing about the actor. And he's like, yeah, but he's dead now. And then like there's like everybody's laughing about the guy and making fun of him. He's like, yeah, but he's dead now. And the whole audience just goes quiet. It's like, The whole audience like has like a sigh of relief. He's like. And the whole audience like, right? And he literally went back and forth with like 6 times, and every single time it worked. Why? Essentially push-pull, right? He's like push-pulling the audience, but because he's doing it so subtly and like so the playfulness is so good, right? And that's what does it. So again, the more subtle you can make it, the better. And there's so many ways to make things subtle, right? One is to make it nonverbal instead of verbal. Another is to soften it, right? So if you're trying to get a reaction, I fucking hate you, right? That's very strong, right? And there's a time and a place for that, right? But a lot subtler and often more effective is, like I'm not so sure I like you anymore.
Really?
Yeah, sorry. And a lot of times that's actually gonna be more effective, right? Especially because it makes a lot more sense. Let's say you've been hanging out with a girl for like 45 minutes, you're really getting along, it's going really, really well, and then all of a sudden you're like, I fucking hate you. It doesn't even make sense. But if you're like, like I was liking you, but I don't know, it's just like, I'm kind of losing the vibe. Right? And that subtlety of the fact that you've toned it down and the fact that you've actually made it real is actually very effective.
If she says something like, all right, bye,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say?
So that's interesting. So essentially what you're talking about is if like she calls your bluff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's always an interesting moment. And by the way, that's something, first thing I'll say about that is every single question you guys ask like that, every single question of like, what if she does this, and it's really hard to deal with, consider that maybe at some point you should do that to her. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll answer your question, but the first point I want to make is that very thing that you say that's so hard to deal with, do it to her, right? So when she bluffs, right, when the girl says like for example, so every play has kind of a counterplay, right? So for example, if I'm like, where are you from?
Canada.
Yeah, well, nobody's perfect, right? And now, so that's like kind of it's a verbal kind of push-pull, and it's kind of a little bit try-hard, right? So because there's kind of a bluff there, you could call that bluff. You'd be like, yeah, cool, well, it's all right, nice meeting you, and start walking away. And now, if you've done that wrong, if you've done that with someone that's not committed to you and isn't buying in, they may just let you go. But let's say you really do have someone bought in, you do have someone invested in the conversation, you're like, yeah, it was nice meeting you, I gotta go, right? and then they're like, their guts drop. They're like, what the fuck? I just lost this. I just ruined this. And the first thing they do is grab your arm, like, no, wait, what? And they pull you back, and then you know you have them, right? Because in any interaction, the person who's not willing to leave is the person that like has the weaker place in the negotiation, basically. Once the girl's indicated she's not willing to lose you, you pretty much can just sit back and get pulled, essentially, right? Because you know that at any moment, at any time, if it's not going well, you just kind of like, oh, that's all right, and you know you're getting brought back in, right? So actually, don't just go around calling bull. Don't walk up and be like, hey, I like you. Okay, I gotta go, right? You don't have enough value to be bluffing just yet. But when you do know the girl's bought in, when you know she really likes you, and you have the power to do that, by all means do. Okay, so that's the first thing is use it to your favor. However, that is a fun thing. That is an interesting thing when it happens. What I like to do there, because it's a tough frame, right? It's a tough frame. She's leaving, right? On the one hand, if you let her go, the set's over and you've lost it, so that sucks. On the other hand, if you try and keep her, now you look needy, right? So what I will try and do usually in that context, and it's kind of a nuanced thing, is I will actually like let her go in a way that keeps her there. Does that make sense? So she's like, yeah, I gotta go. I'm like, yeah, I understand. Look, I just want you to know though, it's not you, it's me. I still think you're a wonderful person. I honestly, like, you might think it's like that you've let yourself go and that it's your love handles, but honestly, like, you still seem like totally cool. And like, I would hug you goodbye, but I just don't want to lead you on. But yeah, actually, come here, right? And then you just like engage, and then you're like, okay. But then you get closer, and you're like, okay, well, I guess you can go if you need to. And the nice thing is, because you've been dismissive and aloof about it, you haven't lost the frame. But also because it's so playful, it's also still fun. It's a good vibe, the teasing's there. And then you are dismissing them, but you're dismissing them ever so lightly that it'd almost be reactive for them to go at that point, right? So there's a lot of finesse there. There's a lot of finesse there. But I guess the point is a couple things there. One, every move has a counter move, right? And I guess another big point is that fundamentally, as much as there are all these different tricks you can use, like this trick, that gimmick, fundamentally, being non-needy and being high value is how you win. Does that make sense? Because if you truly don't need them and truly are willing to walk away, and they know every gimmick and move in the world, but are not willing to walk away, you still win, right? And so fundamentally, that abundance and that ability to push them away plausibly and to push them away and know there's another girl coming is very, very valuable. And that's actually why you can tease without it being such a big deal. And that's actually why a lot of times, how many of you guys have this experience where it was like a 6 or a 7 or some girl you don't care about, you can tease like crazy. And you can just give her hell, right? Yeah. And then you end up talking to the 10 and it's the most platonic, boring fucking interaction. You can't muster a tease to save your life. Yeah. Why is that?
Because you don't want to walk away, right? Yeah.
Exactly. You're unwilling to push her away because you're unwilling to lose her, right? And ironically, that's the girl that needs to be pushed away the most and the hardest. Right? But you need to be absolutely willing to do it. You need to trust the process, right? And that comes from a lot of things. It comes from one, knowing it, but then 2, experiencing it, right? When you get more practice flirting and you see how well it works and you see, exactly the implementation, then you're going to get more of that. Second type of tease I want to talk to you guys about is exaggeration. Okay, exaggeration, because anything can be made funny. Anything in the world can be made funny. It just depends what you're exaggerating, okay? The idea is almost anything, even something completely unfunny, can be made funny if delivered in the right way, and it's all in the exaggeration, right? And so one of the biggest things you can learn in humor is exaggeration, right? Learn to exaggerate. Okay, so has anybody here ever taken improvisational comedy? Anybody? A couple of you guys? Okay. Well, did you guys ever take, did you take long form, short form, long form? Both? All right, cool. So I took Upright Citizens Brigade, which is comedy. It's in LA, New York. It might be in Chicago as well. I know you guys have a lot of improv here. But basically, they have a format for humor, which is basically find the first unusual thing, right? And then they call it justify it. And then if this is true, what else is true, right? And that's a really, really good humor format, right? So say you're talking to someone, and you notice the first unusual thing, and it can be like, that hat's unusual. That shirt's unusual. Or it can be that look you're giving me is unusual, right? Or the way you shook my hand is unusual, right? In an improv scene, it's usually a little more strange than that. But the idea is you take that first thing and play with it. And then from there, what you want to do is you want to give a reason why, okay? And that's where the humor starts coming in. So just, I noticed you have a weird shirt is not teasing, right? But if you make it specific. If you make it specific, it gets funny and gets interesting. So I'll give you an example. Hey man, how you doing?
Okay.
Wow, they're so hesitant. You're like a little bunny rabbit peeking out of his hole. It's so cute. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna get you. You know the fucking groundhog for February 2nd or whatever the fuck it is, right? I'm gonna get you that job. You're gonna be the new fucking superstar groundhog, and you're gonna be a fucking millionaire. Just stick with me. We'll make it happen. That makes sense? Okay. Now that's a little weird, to be honest, right? It's a little weird, but things you can say about it is it's not boring. It's absolutely not boring, and absolutely you are teasing them, you are clowning on them in a way. But that follows that format. It's maybe not the best example in the world of that format, but it follows the format, right? So first unusual thing is a little timid, right? Justify it. Weird justification, he's like a groundhog, right? He's like a bunny or a groundhog. Now, if this is true, what else is true? If he's a bunny or a groundhog, we're gonna make him fucking famous. We're gonna make him the next fucking Puxatawny Phil. Make sense? All right, so that's just one example of the format. Or, hey, what's up, how you doing, man? Good? That was the most bad sounding good I've ever heard in my entire life. Seriously, you know that that thing in kindergarten where it's it's opposite day or some shit like that? I feel like you should be, I feel like you're the fucking opposite day guy. So every single thing in your life is just gonna be fucking upside down, concocted, that kind of shit. So I just want to tell you I fucking hate you. Right? So again, I kind of had to struggle for that one a little bit, but the idea is first unusual thing, justify it. If this is true, what else is true? Right? So first unusual thing, you said the backwards thing. Okay, justification. You're a fucking opposite day man, right? So then if this is true, what else is true? That wasn't really that kind of exaggeration, but I said okay, if this is true, I can say I hate you without it being offensive, right? So in that case, I hate you're a fucking scumbag, you're a piece of shit, and you should rot in hell, right? And now obviously that's funny because I'm taking this exaggeration. I'm playing with it, right? So being playful is where the humor comes in. Now, all of these are just interesting, unique examples, but the idea is to practice the format and learn to be playful, right? Learn to make playfulness part of your everyday vibe. And the more you practice these things, the better they're gonna get, right? So a start is to exaggerate, right? Or to just even notice a weird thing. Be like, man, how many walruses had to die for that sweater that you're wearing over there, right? So that's what I would call a you tease. It's a general tease that's just directed to you, okay? And that's actually a good starting point of teasing. And it's a very easy tease to make. Just tease someone man, those buttons, it looks like your shirt's running away from your face. You unbutton a few more, right? So again, it's just a you tease. It's just about you, making fun of someone. That's very, very easy, but it doesn't get you very far in game. It's a good place to start because it's playful, it's nice, whatever. But if you could do that all day, and you're still not teasing a woman, right? I could say that to you and it's a man-to-man tease. I could say that to you and it's a man-to-man tease. I don't have to have a penis, you don't have to have a vagina for that to work, okay? But if I take it one step further, I can make it a man-to-woman tease, right? So if I say how many walruses had to die for that sweater, I'll tell you what, I'm only into girls that actually like animals. So I need a little tenderness in my woman, we're not gonna get along. Now I've taken that man-to-man tease or that just you tease, and I've made it what I call a we tease. I've made it applicable, and now all of a sudden it is flirty, and now all of a sudden it does work on a man-to-woman level, right? And this format, if you just follow it, you automatically always are gonna get a tease that's gonna actually be emotionally relevant and actually game relevant, right? So for example, for you, the buttons are running, you should really unbutton more buttons and be a little more comfortable with your sexuality. I mean, you're the kind of guy that would asking me for permission for everything he wants to do in bed. It's fucked up. Does that make sense? So, for example, that's a tease. Okay. All right. So yeah, go ahead.
How do you pace how often you tease? Because I feel like maybe if you tease too much, the girl might enjoy it, but she gets too much fun, and then when you stop, she's oh, where's all that go? Or if you don't tease too much, and she goes, the interaction goes down, and then when you do try to tease, it becomes really try hard.
So there's a couple of things there. There's first of all how much teasing, and then the second is when are you teasing, right? So the first is, okay, at the start of the interaction you're going to tease more, typically, and then as the interaction goes further you're going to tease less. Because one of the key reasons why you're teasing at the start is to show that you're the type of guy who can tease, right? One of the biggest things you want to be able to show the girl early on is the willingness to walk away, right? And so the fact that you can tease her shows a willingness to walk away. It conveys you as a high value guy. That makes sense? And actually the same thing can be done through not even just like teasing, but even just like, funny enough, just swearing in set occasionally can actually have that same effect. Like a lot of times you'll have a set that's just like completely platonic, and the girl asks like, you know, are you from New York? And I'm like, fuck no, I'm not from New York, right? And that moment you see the girl's eyes light up, because the fact that I actually was willing to say fuck no, as opposed to yes and agree and go along with her, the very fact that I was willing to potentially offend her, it shows me as a high enough value guy that I'm willing to do that. That makes sense? And teasing and pushing away, same thing. Be like, yeah, I'm not so sure I like you, right? If you're clinging to the girl, you're like, I can't lose this one, you're going to be afraid to say, you know what, you can go, take care, right? And of course you go, I'm just kidding, if you need to, if you push too hard. But the fact that you're even willing to say it shows a lot. So a lot of the teasing at the start is showing you're willing to walk away. It's also just conveying the precedence in the interaction that this is a teasy interaction. Because if you tease once in the first 5 minutes, she thinks it's a serious, boring interaction. If you tease constantly in the first 5 minutes, she knows it's a teasing interaction. She knows that that's the nature. She knows that there is flirtation going on. And then you don't have to keep demonstrating because you've already proven your point, right? Now that said, you don't want to like tease for the first 5 minutes and then tease not at all for the rest of the interaction. But in general, to kind of like taper off, okay? What will happen though, weirdly enough, is that the teases become more serious. That sounds weird, right? Because teases are playful. I mean, the teases become more strong, I guess, is a better way of saying that. So for example, early on, it might be like, hey, you know what? I'm not so sure we're going to get along. Sorry. I mean, I just met you. I don't trust you yet. But you seem cool. You seem sweet. And I love that look you're giving me, right? So that's like an early on tease. It's kind of like chill. It's fairly nice, right? Whereas like later on, you actually could get away with a tease that's like, wow, did you really just say that? I was really liking you, just really fucked up. Jesus. I can't believe. Show that
you're willing to walk away once you've been more invested.
Yeah, but and the thing is, you can get away with it at that point, right? So instead of doing 10 little teases at that point, you have that one tease that just makes her heart sink, right? And then that makes her realize how much she wants you. Makes her realize how much like, oh shit, right? The way I learned that when I had a girl do that to me once upon a time. I was sitting with a girl, everything was going great. I was sitting on the couch. I was like counting the minutes till I was gonna ask her to like go home with me. And then at a certain point, she just stands up, she's like, wow, I just realized something. You're a total douchebag. And the funny thing is I hadn't even said anything. Like I literally hadn't said anything in the last 30 seconds. I hadn't done anything. There was no catalyst for this whatsoever. And she's like, I just realized you're a total douchebag. And it was so weird to me. I was just like, yeah, okay, well, if you think that, then I guess we probably should go. I don't know where you got that from, but all right. And that actually kind of worked for me because I called her bluff. But at the same time, at that moment, I was so shocked and like, oh God, what the fuck just happened, right? And so now I do that kind of stuff to girls, except again, with a little more subtlety and a little more reality, right? So just out of the blue wouldn't work. But let's say I did just say something, right? Like let's say I said something a little controversial potentially. Like let's say that I had said, I don't know, maybe I'd said something about like how I want to like get rich for the sake of this and this and this and something very ambitious. And then she just looks at me and like hypothetically, if she were to look at me and be like, wow, you know, I thought you were real and like knew how to connect with people, but yeah, you're just like all the fucking people in this place. Right? That would actually like hit because it's very believable, very real. And you're like, oh shit, right? And you'd get that shock. And then of course, if it's too much or whatever, she'd be like, I'm just fucking with you, relax, right? And you can always bring it back in, but then who has the power? Who has the power when you get that dejected, oh shit, kind of look? Right, so what'll happen over time is the teases will get stronger because they can. Because too strong of a tease at the start, or too strong of like a flirt at the start, also too strong of an intent flirt, like if you were to go in and your first flirtatious move had like, I want to fuck you behind a dumpster in it, that'd be a little strong, right? But if you've been like role-playing some crazy kinky shit for 30 minutes, you can say stuff like that, right? So the intensity with which you can get away with things increases, but the amount that you need to do it decreases. And what's going to happen over time, actually, is that flirting has a purpose. Flirting has a purpose to convey what type of guy you are, to convey that you're the type of guy she wants to have a connection with. And then once that's in place, she's going to want to connect with you, right? When that's happening, you want to let it happen. because that's what actually gets you somewhere in game. So rather than interrupt that to go back to flirting, let that connection happen. But if it starts to get really boring, or if it starts to get too logical, then start flirting again. Kind of makes sense? The third type of tease, we talked about push-pull, talked about exaggeration a little bit. Next one is misinterpretation. And this is like probably my absolute favorite type of tease because it's so easy. It's so easy, it's everywhere. Right? You can misinterpret literally anything. You can turn anything sexual, and you can turn anything into a compliment. Also, you can use this to pass any shit test pretty much that's going to come your way. So what is a misinterpretation? Misinterpretation basically means just intentionally misunderstanding whatever they're saying. Right? So we'll actually do a little exercise. It's kind of a fun one. I want you guys to throw any sentence at me that has the words I, you, or we in it. Any sentence with I, you, or we in it will work. Just throw some, and what I'm going to do, by the way, is I'm going to take it and I'm going to either turn it into a compliment or turn it into a sexual advance. So I'm going to intentionally misunderstand it in my favor.
We're
Okay?
not going to get along.
Wow, I'm so glad that you're putting so much effort and like thought into our relationship. I'm flattered.
You're pretty boring.
I'm glad that you stay with me even at my worst. Shows commitment.
I, you, or we.
I, you, or we.
I drove to Chicago for the weekend.
Thank you so much. Don't think you're going to get lucky just because you came all this way.
I live in Minneapolis.
I'm not ready to come visit you yet, but let's have a few more drinks and see. Okay? So you see how any of these things are very, very easy to turn into a sexual advance, right? You can also use this for most shit tests. Most shit tests can be misinterpreted, misunderstood. And this is an insanely good way to make a very boring conversation into a very interesting conversation, right? So with the combination of all these things, you can pretty much take anything and make it flirty, make it teasy, right? So say you start off with, what do you do for a living? And they answer something. You can tease on their answer in a million different ways by exaggerating something, right? If they're, for example, they're a doctor. Oh shit, so you're one of those kids that studied your entire life up through college and never had a social life. We're not getting along. You're way too serious for me, right? All of a sudden, you've created a tease out of their job, right? Or they say, any phrase, I, you, or we. I just came in from out of town. Well, thank you for visiting me. I appreciate it, but let's take things slow, right? So every single thing that they're going to say is an opportunity. Now, does this mean you have to take every opportunity? No, you don't, because that'd be fucking weird. All right? If every single phrase out of their mouth was like, they said a logical thing, I teased. They said a logical thing, I teased. Pretty soon it's very clear you're just pushing that button. But I do want to make it clear to you that these are available all the time. Like there really is no excuse for having a conversation that gets boring or that gets overly logical. Make sense? Okay, cool. And so you guys should be able to find this in every single way. Now the question is, when I was doing that last little exercise, when you give me the I, you, or we statement, and I turn it into a tease, those are like pretty good, they're pretty funny, right? How did I do those? How do I do that? What is the format for that, right? So let's take a couple of those and let's break them down, right? I'll have you guys kind of create them on the spot and we'll do it. So someone give me an I, you, or we statement.
We're so different.
We're so different. Okay, cool. So question there is, the reason that could be difficult to deal with is because it's a negative frame. Like we're so different is a possible negative, right? But let's look at different implications of that or different understandings of that. We're so different. What could motivate him to say that? Why?
Analyzing you.
Huh?
He's analyzing you.
He's analyzing me. Cool. Can that be misinterpreted in a positive way?
Yeah.
Cool. Why else might he say that?
He's seeing your compatibility to him and
Cool. Yeah, you're assessing compatibility, right? That's even more specific. That can be done that way, right? Okay, cool. So that's one thing is the motivation, right? The other thing is there's the implication. You're implying that we're so different is a bad thing, but are there ways to imply that we're so different is a positive thing?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Does that make sense? But that's so good. So like, I'll be good at the things you're bad at. I'll be good at things I'm bad at. We're like perfect together. I appreciate that. Does that make sense? So there are all these implications underlying it. So the literal thing is we're so different, which literally just means we're so different. It doesn't even have an implication. But take all the different implications. The idea is we're so different, that's bad. Well, why? We're so different could be good. Or why are you saying we're so different? Make sense? Another way could be going like, potentially you could ask, we're so different than what? Right? We're so different. Yeah, you're right. We wouldn't be that like boring couple that like, gets, tired of each other and only has sex once a week. We are different. That makes sense? So there's all these different ways to look at the problem in a different way. So instead of taking the literal problem you're in and trying to solve it, the first step is look at the problem in a different way. Try and reframe the problem. Okay? Somebody else give me a different IU or we.
You're so weird.
You're so weird. Okay, cool. You're so weird. First of all, reasons he could be saying that.
You're doing something weird. You've been acting weird towards them.
Cool. Well, one reason is that I deserved it, right? Fair enough. Okay, what else? Trying to dismiss me. Okay, cool. Possibly. Okay, cool. So first of those, if I deserved it, could that be misinterpreted in a positive way?
Yeah.
How?
I would say in a good way. You know what I mean? Like you're so weird in a
To be
good way.
better than everyone, you have to be a little bit weird. Right?
Sure. All right. What was the other one you said?
Like try to dismiss you?
Trying to dismiss me.
I said kind of like a flirty teasing.
Okay, yeah. So like playing hard to get. So you could misinterpret it as playing hard to get, right? So the idea is, what are all the different ways you could look at this, right? You're so weird. If by weird, here's a good phrase. Here's a good format for it. If by X you mean Y, right? If by weird you mean fascinating, then thank you. Yes, I am. Right? It's a great format for misinterpreting these things. Right? And what have I done? I've just misunderstood a part of what you're saying in my favor, right? I've rephrased the problem. But again, trying to fight your way out of the box is tough. Changing the box is much easier, right? So for example, take shit tests. If a girl says, is that your pickup line, right? First of all, why is this tough? Why is this your pickup line tough to deal with? It's probably accurate. It's tough to deal with because she's fucking right. Yeah. But no, why is it difficult? Why is this your pickup line a bad frame to be put in?
Because we are doing game, we don't want to like, I don't know, our finances is
Because doing game inherently says you have an agenda.
Yeah.
It says something needy, right? So that's the frame she's trying to put you on, and the idea that it's lame, it's needy, that sort of thing. However, in what ways could we misunderstand this to be a good thing, right? So if she says, is that your pickup line? Well, why is she asking? Well, because she noticed how clever it was. That makes sense, right? Because clearly something brought it to her attention. Like, is that your pickup line? Well, if by that you mean it was very clever, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. You see that, right? Or is that your pickup line? I appreciate, thank you for I like the fact that you're flattering yourself, but let's take things slowly, right? So there's all these different ways that you can misunderstand the intention behind it or misunderstand the frame you're in. But if you're fighting from that same frame, then you're in trouble. Because what a lot of guys will do is that your pickup line, be like, well, I think it's normal for a guy to be talking to a girl because you have to meet someone somewhere, and that's when you're in trouble, when you're trying to logic your way out of the frame, right? Or if a lot of times they'll try and be extra cocky to be out of it, but still from that same frame. Is that your pickup line? Yeah, it is because I'm fucking hot, right? It doesn't really work, right? Because again, once you're in that box, you're in trouble. The key is get yourself out of the box, and instead of trying to clever your way out of the box, get out of the box cleverly, and then just say the most logical, normal thing from the positive frame that you've assumed instead. Does that kind of make sense? You guys getting that? Yeah, so that's what you want to do basically is, and that's what frame control is, and that's what reframing is that every single thing that's said, there's the literal meaning, but there are all the implications around it. There's all the social implications, all the interpersonal implications. If you can change one of those implications in your favor, the entire conversation shifts in your favor, right? And you have to only pick one of them, and there's so many you can use, right? So just as one last exercise, someone else give me an IU and we, and we're going to try and just literally all the different ways that we can pull it apart.
I need to get out of here.
I need to get out of here. Cool, I need to get out of here. Right, okay, so what are all the little interesting things we can pull out of there, right? I need to get out of there. So the word need is very interesting, first of all. Whoa, slow down. I don't want to talk about your needs just yet. We'll satisfy them later, right? That's one, right? Just the very fact that she used the word need is a misinterpretation, right? I need to get out of here, right? You obviously mean it probably in the negative way, but I need to get out of here could be what misinterpreted as an invitation, right? I need to get out of here with you, right? Let's see. What else? I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. It implies urgency, right? It implies a rush, right? Like, wow, you're in such a rush. Slow down. We'll get to know each other over time, right? So there's all these different little elements to it that are like the subtle implied elements, and any of those are great elements to tease on, okay? So that's what we're going to be doing. And essentially remember that teasing is about, it's about the flirtation, it's about the playfulness more than anything else. And so even if you mess up in a playful way that shows you don't care, you didn't really mess up that badly, right? So again, talking about shit tests, these misinterpretations of past shit tests are great, and they're probably like the best way out of shit tests. But even if you can't come up with one, the very fact that you don't care and you're playful is enough. So there's a phrase I'll give you guys that passes every single shit test in the world. Ready? Somebody throw a shit test at me.
I'm not into this.
Yeah, I have no response for that. Can we just be cool now? Someone else throw another shit test at me.
You're a player.
Yeah, I have no response for that. Can we just like hang out and talk? One more shit test, just because.
Your shirt's too black.
Yeah, I have no response for that. It actually really is black, and I think we can just be chill with that. Right? Just not giving a fuck is the baseline, right? Not caring and being willing to be playful is the absolute baseline, and then from there, everything else is possible. So while there are all these different techniques to flirt, fundamentally, if you are abundant and you don't care, you will find at least a decent answer, at least to like maintain and not lose your value. So you don't ever have to worry about losing your value. However, the ability to proactively kind of flirt and instigate is necessary if you want the interaction to go in a direction, right? So there's a difference between just being a high value guy that she can't shit test and then actually actively shit testing her. And in a way you can look at it as that. Flirting with a girl is shit testing the girl. It is giving her a hard time, and it is like enjoying the fact of giving her a hard time, okay? So that was a little primer on how to flirt. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a ton more where that came from inside the new program, The System. Check it out at systembytodd.com. Take care. See you next time.